everybody, and welcome to Families Growing Together, Integrating Evidence-Based Interventions in Direct Practice. I'm Amanda Hopping-Wynn, Director of the National Abandoned Infants Assistance Resource Center located here at the University of California at Berkeley. Today's webinar will be presented by Regina Clement and Elizabeth Rutkowski. Regina, Supervisor of Family Preservation, received her Master's of Social Work from Simmons College in Boston in 1995. Ms. Clement has over 20 years of experience in the social work field, working for institutions like the Providence School Department and Women and Infants Hospital. She currently works for Children's Friend as the supervisor for Families Growing Together, a home-based program for families who would like help focusing on their parenting and relationship with their child. Elizabeth, Family Preservation Manager, holds a master's degree in social work and is a licensed independent clinical social worker. She has 14 years of experience in human services. For the last 6 years, Elizabeth has overseen child welfare programs at Children's Friend, including Families Growing Together. Before we begin, I want to remind you that you can ask your questions via the chat feature in the lower left portion of the screen. We will be answering questions at the end of the webinar today, but please feel free to chat them in at any point. And now I'd like to turn it over to Regina. Regina, thank you for being here today.
Thank you so much, Amanda. Again, my name is Regina Clement, and I'm from Children's Friend here in Rhode Island. And I'm here today with Liz Rutkowski, who is the Manager of Family Preservation here at Children's Friend. We're going to discuss with you the program that we run together, which is called Families Growing Together. And we're going to talk about how integrating evidence-based interventions, how that was a learning process for us in the direct practice that we were providing to families. So just to kind of give you a small overview, Families Growing Together is about 3.5 years old, and it's really a home and community-based program providing services to families that are already involved with Children's Friend. So I kind of consider us an enhancement to their programs within Children's Friend. And the real goal was really to assess attachment and bonding between a parent and their child and work on relationship building as well. Next slide. So again, Families Growing Together, we actually decided that this program would be a 6-month program. We would provide services to our families for 6 months. So it's for families who would like to focus on their relationship with their child. And so these families were referred to us through programs within Children's Friends. So if you had an open case with our early intervention program or with our Project Connect program, then and you wanted some work around attachment and bonding, then you can easily refer to us and receive services. Our criteria really centered around perinatal exposure to drugs or alcohol, and perinatal exposure to HIV and AIDS, and anyone who may be medically at risk. That was a catch-all area for us. So like if you had a mom who had diabetes and had a hard time with her pregnancy, or if you had a child who had some medical needs, feeding issues, cognitive issues, and we could add you into our program and meet the criteria. Again, this is a home-based clinical and case management program. We provided clinical services, therapeutic services, and then of course, we always realize that families can't really meet the needs of their children if they have concrete needs. So if they needed housing, if they needed core advocacy, we would have to be there to help them with that. So that's where the case management came in. In order to provide those services, we had clinicians, myself as a supervisor, and we had some peer mentors who were providing the services to our families. And like I said, as far as the concrete needs that our families would need, we offered transportation, core advocacy, concrete needs. So like if we had a family that needed food in their home, we had emergency assistance where we can get them food. We also had families who may have needed clothing for their children, or needed a bed, or needed toys. These were things that we could help provide to those families. Next slide.
So Families Growing Together was born out of RPG data that said that attachment and bonding services were missing in Rhode Island. The RPG data came from an existing program here at Children's Friend called Project Connect. Project Connect is a program that works with substance-affected families involved in the child welfare system. Families involved with Children's Friend reported that they were not getting enough consistent visitation with their children. The visitation was not consistent and did not provide enough time for parents to be with their children, and was just being offered as a benchmark, as our child welfare system to meet their benchmark. Research shows that more time parents spend with their children, the more secure attachment and bond they will be.
So again, one of the models that we used, or the model that we used, was called Promoting First Relationship. And it's a curriculum for service providers to help parents and other caregivers to meet the social and emotional needs of young children. And their program really is designed as a 10-week curriculum. And so for 10 weeks you would work on, following the child's lead and, reviewing social and emotional needs with them and, what's age appropriate for their children. So a very inclusive program and curriculum that we use with these families. It was developed by Dr. Jean Kelly at the University of Washington. And it really was a relationship-focused program, and again, working on attachment and bonding. One of the unique things about this program that I found that made me fall in love with this program was that they used videotaping during play. So again, this is a relationship-focused program. It was great for us to be able to videotape the play between the parent and the child, and then come back and do some reflective work on what was working for them, what they noticed in the video, and how how much strength they had, and really kind of looking at them as the experts here. We really didn't want to look at weaknesses, so we really kind of focused on the strengths and building up the parent around that. It's a great tool to be used not only in homes but in classrooms. One of the things about this program is that it initially got its legs, so to speak, from working in Head Start classrooms and working with the teachers in their relationship with children, and really helping them discover that these children were looking to them as a attachment figure, a secure and healthy attached child to them. And so helping teachers understand that was a wonderful way to make sure that the social and emotional needs of a child in the classroom were being met. And then, of course, they kind of carry that over into working with parents in their home. The other thing is that we use the circle of security, some of the components of it, to help parents understand how important they are to their children. Again, being able to follow their lead, helping them understand that they're experts. The families that we work with were really involved with child welfare here in Rhode Island, and a lot of them were told that they were experts, and they had issues with parenting. And what we could do through the circle of security and through the videotaping that we were doing is showing them that they were doing a good job, that they were what we call good enough parenting. They were doing it, and they were getting the needs met of their children. So this program and this model really kind of worked for the population that we were looking to be servicing. Next slide.
So at the beginning of Families Growing Together, we had decided that 10 weeks of promoting first relationships was not going to be enough time frame for the population needs that we had. So we had increased to 24 weeks and still discovered that 6 months was not long enough to get through the PFR curriculum as well as help families with their concrete needs and advocate with their child welfare needs. Also, we discovered that there were certain pieces of the PFR curriculum that needed to be tailored to our population, such as the safe versus scary section was triggering for families that had experienced trauma in their lives. Also, moving from a one-parent design to a two-parent design and including the father in paperwork, as most of the paperwork would reference mother as the primary caretaker, as well as two-parent households. Usually it was just a primary caretaker, and we did have a lot of families that were referred to us that had the parents intact caring for their child. We also established some visitation guidelines because we had some unforeseen circumstances such as domestic violence issues between parents when both parents wanted to participate in our program and were not getting along. We created certain guidelines to have concrete established ways in which we can provide services to both parents and prevent them from running into each other in the lobby or situations such as that.
In addition to that, we also had parents who wanted to bring visitors to their visits, and who visited to their visits, but wanted to bring guests. And these folks were not cleared by the Child Welfare Agency, so we had to do a lot of work with our families around making sure if they wanted to bring a guest, if they wanted to bring like a grandparent or their sibling, they needed to get clearance from the department in order to do that. And that was something that, as far as a lesson learned, that was something we were not prepared to do, but of course we met the challenge. Next slide. So another lesson learned that we had was around program equipment. And like I had mentioned earlier, we did videotaping. That was part of our program design. So not only with PFR, but with one of the assessment tools we were using, which is called the NCAST. And it stands for the Nursing Child Assessment Scales and Teaching Tool. And this was another way for us to quantify a parent's ability to attach and bond to their child, to assess whether or not they have sensitivity to their child's cues, and whether or not the child has some attachment to the parent. So one of the things in order for us to use that assessment tool, because it's so detail-oriented, is that we would have to videotape that teaching session that we needed in order to assess the parent and child. And so one of the things that we came up with immediately as a lesson learned was whether or not we should use tablets versus a laptop. And when I say laptop, I'm talking about the laptops that are the new ones that can spin around and turn into a tablet as well. So we had to do a lot of research around what is the best tool. So was it easier to use a tablet? And when I say tablet, it could mean an Apple or a Android. So those were a lot of our discussions early on about what we should use. We decided and opted to use a tablet, and we used a Droid as well because we wanted it to be easy for us to store the videos on our server at our agency, which is all PC-based. So that was one of the lessons learned on how to videotape our families. Leading right into that was the storage of program equipment. So not only the physical equipment, the tablets, we also had to think about how we were going to store the videos. Because we were moving towards electronic records, those videotapes needed to be, or videos needed to be stored on our server. So there was a lot of discussion with our IS department around where to store them, how to store them, how do we get access to them in the future. and really come up with a safe way to store this, I think, very important and confidential information for our families. Also, in addition to that, was access to replacement equipment. So, of course, when you purchase tablets, they come with power cords and all that good stuff, but they kind of, stop working after a good 6 to 8 months. So in our work, we were looking for, replacement cords and batteries and things like that for our tablets, and found that within the 8 months of us owning the tablet, that the power cords no longer were available in the United States. So we had to order them from China, and that took a 3-week period for us to get those power cords back. So just kind of coming up with creative ways to charge the tablet in order to use it was definitely a thing for the team to kind of think about. Like I said, it took about 3 weeks for us to get the power cords back. But again, realizing that this tablet probably won't be available on the market much longer if they're not going to be having access to those types of equipment, or that kind of equipment, moving forward. We also talked about, as a team, around lessons learned, the need for Wi-Fi access. These tablets did not come with automatic Wi-Fi attached to it, and so we had to work with our IT department around making sure that they were connected to the agency's Wi-Fi in order for us to research for clients around housing issues, if they wanted to, file an application for housing, or, file an application for work, which is what we have the tablets for as well. If we wanted to upload to our servers the videos that we were using, how easily could that be done? That was done quickly if we had Wi-Fi. So there was a lot of discussion with our IS department around making sure that we had that access. And then, of course, obtaining assessment tools for our program. So, like I said, we definitely had the NCAST as a tool to use. Well, it comes with a kit, and it comes with all kinds of toys. And when you use it for 3.5 years, you lose the beads in the bag. You lose the, the sock that they're supposed to be able to, put on a child's foot. That kind of thing. So reordering a lot of materials, as well as the scoring guides that we needed in order to score the NCAST. We needed to do that, as well as another assessment tool we used was the ASQs. They have similar toys as well. We had to make sure that we had updated bags. We had to make sure that we could replace those bags in order to do the work that we were doing with folks. Next slide.
When Families Growing Together was designed, we had a certain population in mind: single moms who were substance affected, poor, child welfare involved, and it turned out to be
like 50-50.
Yeah, 50-50 of children that were in the home, as well as half of the children were outside of the home. So promoting first relationships was designed for single parents, and our program worked with both parents. It was also designed for parents that were in a different socioeconomic background. Our parents were, for the most part, experiencing significant poverty. It was also designed for parents who were not involved with the child welfare system, and not for parents who were in need of supervised visitation. So those were all adaptations that we had to make with the population that we had decided to serve. We also worked on changing the system's perspective of visitation, because our child welfare system in Rhode Island, for the most part, was not using supervision to help clients have a better relationship with their children.
And so, of course, as far as lessons learned, we also talked about the integration into direct practice. So due to the client population differences, we had to discuss with the national trainer how to work with moms and dads. Their program really was designed to work with one parent, a dyad, a parent and a child. And we worked with the entire family. We are a family-centered program. We believe in co-parenting, and our families were going to be co-parenting. So we had to have a lot of discussion with them around making sure that we could tweak some of the language in their documents that we use, like the handouts, in order to reflect that. We also, due to our clients' population and their extreme trauma history, we also got clearance to omit certain program models that would trigger client trauma symptoms. So in the curriculum, there is a point in it where we go over talking about a parent's trauma history and how that may help them understand that some things that are scary for a child can trigger them, and how to best meet their child's needs when they're going through that. And so they use this video, and it's a scene with someone walking through the woods, and the first time they show the video, it's this shock music, real scary music, and I think it would trigger anybody. And then they switch, same video, same scene, and it's this very serene music that they play. And the intent is to help parents understand what their shock music is, and know that when they start to feel like that, they need to kind of latch onto the coping skills in which helps them get through those daily stressors. Well, for us, that was just too triggering for our clients. We have clients in our program who have significant trauma, and we weren't really sure whether or not our families would be able to get it back together after that triggering for us to leave them. And so our discussion with the national trainer was, can we omit that from the entire curriculum for our population, for our clients? And they understood that. We were grateful for that, and we have not used it in the 3.5 years that we've been working with families. And the client population, they were always in a state of crisis, and the program gave us clearance to lengthen the curriculum from 10 weeks to 24. And that really was in an attempt to make sure that if crisis came up during our sessions, like when we walked in the door, we may have had an agenda, but that goes out the window when your client's in crisis. So you sit there with your client, you help them work through that. We're there to advocate for them as well. And so in doing so, we felt that we wouldn't get through the curriculum in 10 weeks if we always walked in on a crisis. So what we did was definitely make sure that the national trainers knew that the 24 weeks was really designed for us to, if we had to, put aside the curriculum, work on the crisis, and then come back next week and work on the curriculum. And maybe you may not get to the curriculum the following week. You may have to work on the crisis a couple of weeks in order to do that. So that was a lot of the work that we did with families. Next slide.
So some of the suggestions that we implemented were adding dads to the curriculum, and also modifying the language of handouts in order to meet the needs of cognitively delayed parents. We'll still use the handouts, but use different language so that families are better able to understand the meaning behind the handout. We also had some challenges in working with minors who either had been in the child welfare system themselves or had recently aged out. As far as this struggle with these parents, they had their own attachment issues as a child, which
really kind of it really kind of made it difficult sometimes for us to kind of work with them because of their own attachment. I always say they get it honestly because they were not given the type of needs, social emotional needs. Their needs weren't met while in care. So we often had to kind of give them information about what to expect from a 2-year-old, what to expect from a 3-year-old, and kind of walk them through that process. So it really was, and also working with them, helping, you may have to meet their social emotional needs before you can even go there with their children. Right. I also want to add that the cognitively delayed clients, we had to do a lot of work with our service providers in the community around making sure that they were hooked up with services. So our developmental disabilities unit of our Department of Human Services, we had a great connection with them and making sure that those families were connected with them. We also had a doctor who did all of our neuropsych evaluations for us and really kind of gave us some real good tools on how to help these parents who had these cognitive delays understand what the social emotional needs of their children were. Gave us great advice and tools on how to break that down for them, and just great information for us to use in order to meet their needs as well. Creative additions, and some of this is kind of repetitive here, but we eliminated the model's handouts for durability. So we would go out to a home, and this was week 5, and so there were certain handouts that we were supposed to use, and 9 times out of 10, the child that we're working with, the parent that we're working with, may kind of wreck our materials for the day. So what we ended up doing was laminating the handout so that, if a kid got a hand on it and was munching on it, spilled juice on it, that kind of thing, we could wipe it off and bring it back to our office and still use it the next day. So that was some of the stuff that we looked at doing. We also created and developed play bags. When we walked into homes, we realized that children didn't have educational toys. They may have been using nothing but the video machine on their TV. So we would bring age-appropriate toys, building blocks, things like that, that would help with the learning piece as well as help us work with families around the importance of play. Again, using the tablets instead of video cameras was a definite creative addition. I think the video cameras would have been more bulky. Actually, today's technology may make them smaller, but I think the tablets allowed for us to do other things with families, like help them with filling out applications, help them search for housing, help them find food banks when they needed it, things like that. So it was a great way for us to provide additional services to the family instead of just using that one video camera just to videotape them during their play. We also provided clients with folders for the handouts and other paperwork that we may have had. Again, we would walk into the home and ask them to pull out the handout on social emotional needs, and it was gone. So what we ended up doing was having them put them in these real durable plastic folders that they could, put up on a shelf and refer back to when we're there and when we're not there. And so that was a great suggestion from one of our staff members who I always said was the guru around organization for our staff. And then lastly, we had clients, for clients, we would copy the DVD and make a DVD of all of the videos that we made of them playing with their children. And I always joked with families and say, well, you could use this as a blackmail, video for when they turn 21 or something like that. But it definitely was a way for them to follow up and review the information that they learned while in this program with us. Next slide.
The other thing that we had to think creatively about is how to support the peer mentors and families growing together. We did have some other peer mentors that were employed at the agency for a couple of years prior to Families Growing Together creation. So we did have some background knowledge on what type of support and needs peer mentors had. So the other programs, peer mentors and the Families Growing Together peer mentors decided that they would establish their own group supervision. And within that supervision, they were able to discuss anything from client issues and struggles that they were having with clients to boundaries and how peer mentors' boundaries are a little bit different than the other providers in the home and how to balance that. We also were able to find some trainings in the community for our peer mentors. And what else? Yeah, I think it was really useful, the fact that we had some other kind of more senior peer mentors to help pave the way.
Absolutely.
For this sort of new position at Children's Friend, because the peer mentors are doing really great work, and it's definitely an added bonus to our programs here.
Yeah, and I think that for the peer mentors in our program, they really were the ones who had all of the community resources like in their hands. They knew where to send families, where to get services for families that were not on the clinician's radar. So it was a great way to make sure that our clients got a well-rounded experience in the program. And then when you had that seasoned mentor with a new mentor hooking up, it's a great passing of the baton and really giving the peer mentor who's learning some real good tools to bring with them out into homes and feel confident in the work that they're doing. Because again, they were peer mentors. They were someone that that our families could look to, can see themselves in. So that was a great way for us to kind of give them some posturing, some propping up, for lack of a better word.
I also think peer mentors did a great job of creating a relationship with our families and being able to form that relationship quickly. Since only having 6 months, it was important for us to really engage that family as quickly as possible. Our peer mentors are also great in the creative thinking, the out-of-the-box thinking. And so when we're stuck with a family and we're kind of questioning what to do next, the peer mentors are always one that would come in with an idea that other people wouldn't have normally thought of.
Yeah, the clinicians, I try not to say we're snobs, but sometimes we may be.
Yeah, too much education.
Yeah.
But they come in with an out-of-the-box idea that's creative and that works great for the family. So they were definitely a great addition to this program.
So the use of data. So from the data we obtained through the Project Connect program that Liz talked about a little bit, we were able to see that there were gaps in services provided to our population. And, that was the reason why Families Growing Together was developed. We realized that there were issues with visitation in the state of Rhode Island. We realized that families were not getting the appropriate amount of time to bond and attach with their children. And visitation really was not viewed as a therapeutic means. It was really a means to make sure that the benchmarks were being met by the department. And so for us, we're like, look, there's more to just visitation than that. So the powers that be at Children's Friend sat down and created this wonderful program to meet those needs of our families. Next slide.
And through the data that we collected for our 3.5 years, we saw that a reduction in developmental delays for children, and when children did their assessment tools did identify some delays, we were able to connect them to early intervention quickly. Improved child well-being. Social emotional needs were reviewed and identified, and parents recognized what their child needed, and which increased a stronger relationship and bond. And safety was another area that received positive increases in the data. Parents recognized what provided a safe environment for their children. So we were able to get some great outcomes through our data collection.
And so as far as parents and families are concerned, the data basically said that it improved their parenting abilities. So you had parents who understood the social and emotional needs of their children. They were able to pick up on their cues. They knew what was age appropriate for a 2-year-old now. A lot of our families who were substance affected, there was some type of distortion in when they felt a child should be able to walk or talk. So that kind of stuff was really reviewed, and parents were able to kind of successfully understand it. In addition to those outcomes, we learned that they developed a sensitivity to their child's cues. And again, we definitely spend a lot of time on helping them understand what their child's social and emotional needs were, and picking up on their cues. PFR has a wonderful tool called Baby Cues, and it's just it's like a deck of cards that will show you a facial expression of a 2-year-old, and they needed to be able to identify what that was. And so us using those cards really did help parents recognize what that face was or what that cry could have meant. So great tool for us to use and for anyone to use for that matter. Also learned to foster their children's social and emotional growth. So really did just spend a lot of time on the importance of play and taking that away. That play is so important. That is how their children grow. That's how they get to know, how to be, for lack of a better word. Improve their relationships with their children. Some of our clients, they were removed, the children were removed early. And so helping them during visitation to improve upon their relationship, to have a stronger, healthy bond with their child was very important to them. And so, the data showed that our work helped improve that for them. And, of course, fostering their child's cognitive development while enrolled in Families Growing Together. That was, I think, really due to us making sure that, referrals to early intervention were made, that children were attending Head Start and, that kind of thing. So just definitely referrals to early intervention, making sure that they understood what the ASQs were talking about around communication and problem solving, those kinds of things. And that really did help parents understand how important cognitive growth was for their child. Next slide. Any questions?
Thank you both. I'm wondering if you can speak a bit more to the Baby Cues cards that you referenced. Was that part of promoting first relationships, or was that something additional?
It actually was additional. It was an additional cost, but PFR encourages you to use them. So the NCAST programs, they have a website. You can go on there. They have all kinds of lovely tools, and one of them is the Baby Cues, and they're in Spanish and in English. And they actually just upgraded them with some new modern pictures, but it's a great tool to use. It's something that you can use, and you don't have to use PFR either. So, I mean, it's just a great resource.
So it could be a standalone, the
Absolutely.
Card. Great.
Yep. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Someone's curious about how you build for services.
How we bill.
So are you entirely grant funded, or do you?
We are entirely grant funded at this time. However, we are in the process of working on sustainability right now. So we're hoping to, again, because this program, and we view this program as an enhancement, we're hoping to roll it into other programs as part of their service.
It's also given us a chance to kind of show the child welfare department what we can do when it comes to visitation and what added supports and enhancements that we can add to supervised visitation. So it's also a possibility that we could potentially contract with our child welfare department.
And just additionally, we have been getting referrals outside Children's Friend. Like I said, this really was an enhancement to Children's Friend services, but we have been getting calls outside of the agency asking us to work with their families. So we've been creative about how to get those families into Children's Friend, but they definitely were calling from outside. People were talking about us.
Mm-hmm. And how has the relationship been with child welfare, and how do they view the work that you're doing? It sounds like from your perspective, things are going well, but I'm curious about child welfare.
Actually, it's going well. I've been in this field for a while, so I've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly. And it really has been a great partnership with them. Again, I think one of the things that may lighten the load is that we're a voluntary program, and referrals don't come from them. So what will happen is a family will be identified. We will open to that family. We will realize and know that that family is involved with child welfare. We'll give them a call, let them know who we are, let them know that we're here to partner with them. Also kind of say, we will definitely assist you with visitation, which is always a great sell. And, it's been a great experience, for the 3.5 years that we've been doing this.
Great. You talked about adapting an evidence-based model, promoting first relationships. Was that a challenging process, and would the model developers say that you are implementing the model with fidelity at this point?
I would say yes. And the reason why I say yes is because in our conversations with them, we really were not changing the model. Like, for instance, the whole scary versus safe video, which we asked to omit, that was used to help families or the parent to begin to identify how they cope with daily stressors. That can be done in multiple ways, and we didn't have to show the video in order to get it done. So for us, I really do feel like we adhere to their fidelity in doing that. And again, they gave us the okay to do it, and that it would not affect the fidelity.
Got it. Great. Well, Regina, Elizabeth, thank you both so much for being on the call today. Thank you to all of our participants.
Thank you for having us.
Yeah. Folks will be receiving an email in just a little while, and in that email there will be a link to an evaluation. We'd love to get your thoughts, feelings, and comments. There's also still time to register for other sessions in our Lessons Learned series. We have webinars all day tomorrow as well, brought to you by our AIA grantees. So please, if you haven't done so already, visit our website, aia.berkeley.edu, to register for tomorrow's sessions. Thank you all, and I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you.